All right, hey there. My name is Clay Malott. I'm a writer for Snowbrains.com, and I'm going to take you through the next week or so in terms of snowfall totals around the entire western U.S. So I'm in a meteorology program called AWIPS here. It's a computer program. You can download it online if you'd like. Gives you lots of access to good public data. Right now, I'm looking at the imagery from the infrared imagery from the GOES 17 satellite, and right here. And this is a good proxy for looking at convective precipitation. So not necessarily orographic precipitation, which is what you see a lot more in the mountains here. But this is a rather good proxy for storm energy. So you can see we sort of have this wall of energy set up in the Pacific, right off the Pacific coast. And you can see if I run this back, I'll run it forward here. You can see this moisture is already starting to streak into the Pacific coast a little bit here. So good signs here that we got a lot of good snow coming our way. And I'm going to break that down here. So this is the GFS run, Global Forecasting System, looking at snow water equivalent precipitation rates. So not necessarily, snowfall. You need to multiply these values by snow liquid ratio, which I'll explain in a little bit to get expected snowfall totals. So at the time of filming, it's about 9 p.m. on Wednesday night. And we're looking at a couple lingering showers here in the Wasatch. Let me just turn on the cities here so it's a little bit easier to get oriented. But we're looking at a little bit of lingering precipitation here in the Wasatch, a little bit in the Rockies here. And let's just check out what's going on over the next couple weeks, or next week, I guess. So first and foremost, on the edge of this forecast, you can see the band of energy that we saw on the satellite here. This is the same band of energy that will bring a pretty decent amount of precipitation. This is sort of this first wave of the next couple systems. So this will move in, and it's sort of making landfall here. You're talking about 8 a.m. on Thursday. So tomorrow morning it should start to make landfall on the Pacific coast here, penetrating in the mountains by mid-afternoon. So this is a pretty good storm that's going to come in fairly south. So Oregon, Mount Baker may not even, might get a couple inches, but the majority of the energy is heading further south here towards California. So Oregon resorts could do well, Mount Hood, but Tahoe is sort of the place we're really looking at for this storm system on the Pacific coast here. You can see there's a lot of energy sort of moving in. We're talking about precipitation rates of, 0.4 inches in 3 hours, which is pretty good. So if you're multiplying by, typical coastal, I guess you could say, snow liquid ratio values, you're talking about 4, 5, 6 inches an hour for Tahoe. So pretty good rates there. And then moving forward, you can see this energy, this storm intensifies as it moves south here. So you're seeing, as the energy sort of consolidates, you're seeing higher and higher storm rates. This is a little bit west of Lake Tahoe here, down by Placerville or so. But still, you're seeing a pretty good amount of energy, even in Tahoe City, half an inch of water in about 3 hours, which is very, very strong. That's a good system moving through. And that storm will continue to move south along the Sierra Crest and then sort of fizzle out here. But if we run this back, the lingering showers sort of stay in the Rockies here and in the Wasatch, and then this big front of moisture sort of arrives there very early on Friday morning. This is 2 a.m. Mountain Time on Friday morning, and you're seeing some energy move into Salt Lake and then later into the western Rockies. Keep in mind, this storm system, if I run this back, you're going to see this storm system moving in a very good northwest direction, right? So it's coming from the northwest, and think about resorts that are typically doing well with that flow. So resorts that will probably outperform the forecast. Think about resorts like Steamboat, Snowmass, potentially Silverton, places that are on the northwest edge of the mountains in Colorado, namely Steamboat. Steamboat does very, very well with these sorts of storms. So look for big totals at Steamboat all throughout all these storms. All these storms come in a pretty similar direction, but look out for big totals at Steamboat. Moving forward here, nothing crazy happening in the Wasatch or Rockies. Good consistent snowfall on the western flanks of both those ranges, which is exactly what we want, but nothing crazy like we would see in Tahoe on the storm, for example. Then you already have this next band of energy moving in. If we move back to the infrared right now, you can actually see it's sort of this and all of this over here. We have a lot of good energy set up, sort of blocked up to hit the coast. And here's that energy moving through, sort of starting to make landfall here. This is about 8 p.m. on Friday. And this storm again is going to come in sort of far south at first, but this lingering moisture up top is going to move in further north. So I'll play it out for you here. So you see that moisture moving in further north. But again, Oregon, southern Washington, going to do the best on this storm. This storm's not as far south, so Sierra are not going to benefit as much. The Cascades are definitely the place to be here during this second storm. This is about 8 a.m. on Saturday. So this storm has fully moved into the mountains here, and it's starting to punch through to Salt Lake City, the Wasatch here, Alta, Snowbird, Park City, those sort of resorts. We're talking about 10 a.m. here on Saturday, and this moisture continues to move through and starts to hit the Rocky Mountains here at about 2 p.m. On Saturday, and we're looking at a lot of upstream energy. So this storm is fairly long, right? And it's all moving in the same direction. So we're looking at quite a bit of energy for the Wasatch here and the Western Rockies. And more importantly than a lot of energy, it's sustained. So we're seeing 24-hour plus increments of snowfall for the Wasatch and Western Rockies here. So you'll see the storm system move through, and it sort of stays pretty consistent until about this is 11 p.m. on Sunday. So that storm sort of fizzles out. But don't worry, because we have another storm set up here just off the coast. So this is sort of starting to make landfall here at 11 a.m. on Sunday. And you're seeing this move pretty quickly into the mountains. Pacific coast here could do very, very, could see very high precipitation rates, up to an inch in 3 hours. Unfortunately, it does not snow very much, on the Oregon coast because of the cooling or the warming effect, I should say, during the winter that the ocean can have on the local environment. But in the mountains here, you're still seeing pretty decent precipitation rates, upwards of 0.5 inches in 3 hours. So that's pretty good snowfall rates. This storm system continues to follow this northwest flow direction that these storms have been coming in. And Wasatch, again, starting to get hammered. This is about 11 a.m. on Monday, reaching the Wasatch here. And, moisture starts to break through to the Rockies at about, this is 5 p.m. on Monday. So this storm will sort of occupy all of the western U.S. here. This is going to be good storm for places like Alta, all the Wasatch, and that energy, that upstream energy that I've been talking about, everything in here is going to start to move into Colorado, and we're going to see really good, long, sustained, periods of precipitation here in western Colorado. And again, looking at resorts like Steamboat, Aspen, Silverton, potentially Telluride, these storms are going to do fairly well with this storm just because of this direction. It's really lifting due to the orography of the range, really lifting and forcing out a lot of moisture here. But look at the Wasatch here to do extremely well with this storm. This could be really big for them. And this storm, sort of continues to move through, lingering snow showers throughout the entire U.S. And then already we have another storm set up. This is sort of our fourth big system, making landfall at about 11 p.m. here on Wednesday night. And you can see this thing's coming in, and it's coming in hot, and it's coming in further north. This is important because you're looking at resorts like Whistler, you're looking at resorts like Mount Baker, Summit at Snoqualmie, resorts that are further north could do really well with this storm. Keep in mind that it's a little bit too far out. We're over a week out now, bit too far out to be forecasting specifics, but we know this storm could come in fairly strong here to the northern Pacific Northwest, and you see that moisture intensify along the Cascade Crest here, right, along the mountains in the Pacific Northwest and moving through inland. You're seeing sort of, I'm going to turn off sampling because specifics don't matter this far out, but you're seeing decent, not great, but decent snowfall rates in the Wasatch and moving through into the Rockies here. And then you have another system lined up. This thing's going to come in fairly far south. It should make landfall. This is 11 a.m. on Friday, next Friday, I should say. And this will come through and really just go crazy. Mount Hood is going to be the place to be during this storm. This will be a good storm for Mount Hood. Potentially up by, Mount Shasta could do fairly well with snow here. And this storm, again, is going to continue to move in that northwest flow direction. So look for sleeper totals at, the forecast hour is 240 here. So 240 hours out from now, 10 days. So unfortunately, the forecast ends. But we're looking at probably a pretty decent amount of precipitation in the Wasatch and Rockies heading into the following week. But we got some pretty good storms lined up here for all of the western U.S. I'll play this in a loop just so you can see continuously sort of what this system is going to look, or these couple of systems are going to look like. So you're seeing sort of this almost conveyor belt of storms, right? Bringing storms in from the Pacific, hitting all the places we want to see them hit: Pacific Coast, Wasatch, Rockies, all the ranges in Idaho, Nevada. You're going to see this be a pretty productive period. The next 10 days are going to be fairly productive for almost all of the western United States. And I'll show you here is a split map. The left-hand side here is the global forecasting system. This is the next 7 days worth of snow water equivalent precipitation. On the right here is the National Center for Environmental Predictions. This is their hydro forecast for the next 7 days again. So you're looking at pretty decent totals all across the West. Pretty good precipitation in that corridor. Again, I keep mentioning this corridor over and over again. I know it probably is annoying, but this northwest flow is really, really important because this northwest flow pretty much perfectly sets up every resort that we wanted to set up. We're getting a lot, like I said, in the Pacific, so even Sierra Nevada, Pacific Northwest, and then we're also seeing a lot in the Wasatch and a lot in the Western Rockies. And notice both of these precipitation maps. We're looking in both of these at this sort of flank, if you will, along the Western Rockies, where you're seeing a lot more snow. And then moving into the I-70 corridor, here's Breckenridge, Vail, Winter Park here, and then Silverthorne, the hub of A Basin and Keystone and all those good resorts in there. But you're seeing less moisture over there than you are along the western flanks of Colorado. So you're looking at resorts like Steamboat, Aspen, potentially Silverton, doing fairly well with this next week. I-70 resorts less so, just because they're on the further east on the mountains and don't do as well with the northwest flow. But this is going to be a fairly productive pattern over the next week. I'll sample and show you a couple values here. So, up by I guess Mount Hood, over by Portland, you're looking at 6 inches of water, almost 7 inches of water. This is going to be significant for Oregon. The mountains along Oregon. Less so, I guess, for Mount Baker. You're still looking at precipitation rate, or total precipitation about probably 3 inches, anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 inches down by Lake Tahoe. Both the models are agreeing on more than 3 inches here in the mountains above Tahoe, so that's a really good sign. Moving over to the Wasatch, if you're looking at Park City, Alta, Alta could be looking at between 2.5 and 4.5 inches. So models are a little bit more varying there. But regardless, we are still looking at quite a bit of snow. The Wasatch Mountains are going to be the place to be, or one of the places to be, I should say, for this next system. They will do very well. A lot of moisture coming in there. Moving over to Colorado, we're looking at Steamboat, upwards of probably 2.5, 3 inches of water here. So that's quite a bit of snow. Colorado powder that could, quickly stack up to 40 plus inches. Moving along sort of this western front, Aspen, Snowmass Village, looking at 1.5 to 2 inches of water. These models are fairly in a pretty good amount of agreement here. That probably just shy of 2 inches of a snow water equivalent. So you're talking about probably upwards of 30 inches here. Moving south into San Juan's, this is still going to be pretty good, close to 3 inches, maybe even upwards of 3 inches in the Western Rockies here. Then moving over to the I-70 corridor, you're looking at more like 0.7, 0.8 inches of snow water equivalent. So probably, potentially up to 20, but I would say probably between 15 and 20 inches in the next week is probably a fairly progressive estimate. I'd say that's on the upper end of how things are actually going to shake out. I'll drop copies of both these maps so you can sort of look at what resorts, what mountain ranges are looking at the most moisture, so you can see for yourself. But other than that, we're looking at a very good stormy pattern for the next 7 days. So fingers crossed for snow. Stay tuned to SnowBrains for more forecast analyses like this, and we'll see you next time. Fingers crossed for more snow.